Welcome back to Spark Talk Fridays, the show where we have conversations that are sparked from life. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Ivo.
Happy Friday, Ivo.
Happy Friday.
Interesting that we say Happy Friday.
Why is that interesting?
So this episode, we are talking about seasonal depression. And I wanted to talk about this because I started to notice as it started to get colder, I started to get into a little bit of funk. And I myself, in the past, have suffered from seasonal depression. And I really didn't know what it was. And I didn't really know that there was a name that described what I was going through. So I kind of just went through the motions of feeling a lot of the symptoms that are attributed to seasonal depression. I just kind of chalked it up to, I'm a woman, I'm hormonal, I have different times of the month, it's winter, it's cold, which is a large factor in seasonal depression. But I wasn't really sure how to go about fixing the way that I felt. So I want to get a little bit into what seasonal depression is, like what some of the symptoms are, some of the causes, so that we have a better understanding of what seasonal depression is. So first and foremost, it's a type of depression that tends to appear during the late fall to early winter, which is the season that we are in right now. And because I started to feel a little bit of that funk, that's why I was like, you know what, let's talk about this. Seasonal depression occurs in about 0.5 to 3% of individuals in the general population. It affects 10 to 20% of people with major depressive disorder and about 25% of people with bipolar disorder. So the numbers increase from general to people that already have an experience with another form of depression. Signs and symptoms of, I'm just going to call it SAD, which is an acronym for seasonal depression, include feeling sad or down for most of the day, nearly every day, lost interest in activities you once enjoyed, having low energy and feeling sluggish, which is something that I immediately start to feel when we transition from summer to fall. Irritability and anxiety, having problems with sleeping too much, physical problems such as headaches, experiencing carbohydrate cravings, overeating and weight gain, having difficulty concentrating, the feeling of hopelessness, worthlessness, or guilt, or like feeling guilty, and on the really serious end, having thoughts of not wanting to live. And then symptoms specific to the weather, symptoms specific to winter onset SAD, sometimes called winter depression, which is intensified later on in the season. So like when we start to transition from fall to winter. So like,
Sorry, you're just a little close.
Okay, so like November, December, January, February, those are the months that I'm talking about. You're experiencing oversleeping, appetite changes, weight gain, and the tiredness and low energy. I like to call these days the gray days. And I know that you are familiar with me saying this.
Yeah.
There was a time that I can recall, a November, where I swear to God, it was gray every day for like 3 weeks straight. There was no sun. Every day you just got up and it was like no sun. It was just gray. And I remember just feeling miserable.
I'm laughing because I was totally oblivious to those gray days, and the only reason I remember it was because of how much it affected you.
Yeah, I used to constantly complain about it, how it made me feel, how I lacked the exposure to sun, or I felt like I needed sun, but I still wasn't making the correlation. I still wasn't realizing that those gray days were internally affecting the way that I felt, and I was experiencing seasonal depression. So some of the causes of seasonal depression, number one is your biological clock, your circadian rhythm. The reduced level of sunlight in fall and winter may cause winter onset SAD. This decrease in sunlight may disrupt your body's internal clock and lead to feelings of depression, which is exactly what I was feeling. Serotonin levels, a drop in serotonin, a brain chemical, the neurotransmitter that affects mood, might play a role in seasonal depression. Reduced sunlight can cause a drop in serotonin that again may trigger depression. And then lastly is melatonin levels. The change in season can disrupt the balance of the body's level of melatonin, which plays a role in sleep patterns and mood. So those three things are causes of seasonal depression. And I can tell you right now that the circadian rhythm one for me was a big one. I, for a good part of my life, had trouble sleeping. And I don't mean like staying asleep. I couldn't even fall asleep and then would be tired and sluggish throughout the day. So how is seasonal depression treated? I myself had to figure this out. I didn't know what was happening to me. So what I did was I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get a blood panel. I'm going to get a checkup and I'm going to figure out what's going on with me, because obviously something internally is not right. Still not realizing that I was experiencing seasonal depression. And as I think back, it's one of the reasons why I was never excited about Christmas. Everybody would be like, oh my God, it's Christmas. I'm so excited. And I would just be like, whatever. It's just another day. It's actually kind of dull considering like how cold it is, how much lack of sunlight we have. So Jeanna ended up going to the doctor and getting my blood panel back and realizing that I was severely deficient in vitamin D. To the point where my doctor was like, okay, I need you to do a couple things, not just taking a vitamin D supplement. I need you to take a high level of a vitamin D supplement. In addition to that, I need you to find ways to seek sunlight. And it was really hard for me at the time because I worked in a mall. So every day I got up for work, especially in the winter where the sun starts to not come up to about 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I would get up. I would have to be at work sometimes anywhere between 8 and 10, depending on the day. And let's say if I got up at 7 and the sun was just coming up, I was usually already exhausted from the day before. And to find some sunlight and then to commute to work, to be in a mall where there's no windows. I'm eating lunch inside of a mall. And then the majority of the time when I left work, the sun had already set in the winter.
Yeah, and the light that you're getting in the mall is typically like
the worst light.
It's like a sunlight at the top of the mall, but then the whole mall is white. So it's just a big reflection off of all of the white that you're getting, and you're not really getting.
Wait, say that again?
So usually have like these sunlights at the top of the malls.
Oh, the mall that I worked in did not have that.
And because
you mean like the skylights?
The skylights, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You said sunlights. That's why I was like
sunlight.
Confused.
Skylight, yes. And because I remember this from working in the mall myself.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember, the malls were generally white on the inside. So you didn't need a lot of sunlight for it to start reflecting off the walls to brighten everything up inside of the mall. And what you got was the brightness of all the white walls versus actual sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an illusion.
It actually kind of reminds me of when have you ever gotten snow blind? Am I saying that right? Snow blinded.
Snow blinded or snow blind is actually just a term from when you look at
snow too long.
The white will blind you.
Yeah, I passed out once. That happened to me in the blizzard of 1996. I was shoveling snow outside with my mom, and I don't know what happened. I was like staring at the snow too long, and I just passed out. And I was like, "What the hell happened to me?" And they were like, "Oh, you got snow blinded." But yeah, working the mall was obviously not serving my circadian rhythm. Going to work, driving in a car where the majority of the time it was those gray days where there was little to no sun, to then sit in a mall for 8 hours, to come home to it already be nighttime. And I was just constantly in that vicious cycle. So I had to start taking vitamin D supplements. I think the recommended amount is 600 IUs. And I started to feel a change. I started to feel less irritable, because that was one of the things that really would take me over the edge, because the tiredness would then tie into the irritability. And when you are in a family and you are trying to function as, I guess, head of household, and then in my role at work at the time, I was in a leadership role, I had to come in every day with a smile on my face, even though inside I felt the complete opposite. So, and it wasn't every day, but we're primarily talking about in the winter, because in the summer, Jeanna feels freaking amazing. And the vitamin D supplement definitely made a huge change for me. But then once I left my full-time job and transitioned into part-time, doing what I do now, I kind of got stuck back into that, because I found myself just wanting to be in the house all the time. And that's like a vicious cycle, because you think, okay, I enjoy my solitude, I want to stay in the house, but then staying in the house reduces how much sun exposure you have. The less sun exposure you have, the less you want to go out, the more tired you feel. And I found myself in that. And I want to say the first couple months, because when I left my full-time job, it was November. So I was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy the holidays. And then come February, I'm like, I hate this. And I need to figure out how I'm going to feel better. I was also going through something emotionally at that time, dealing with some past issues. So that, coupled with the way that I was feeling, was like a recipe for disaster. So some of the ways that seasonal depression is treated is, number one is exposure to sunlight. I can't stress to you how important it is to find ways to expose yourself to sunlight from a range of anywhere from 5 up to 30 minutes. And the reason why there's a range is because it really depends on how much melanin you have in your skin. The more melanin, which I mean is the deeper your complexion is, the more sunlight exposure you need, because we need to take in more sun just to get the same amount of vitamin D of someone of a lighter complexion. Where they may only need 10 minutes, I need 30 minutes.
Why is that?
I just said because of the melanin in my skin. The sun doesn't penetrate deeper complexions.
That's what I wanted to hear when I asked why. Because some people may not understand, like, how exactly melanin works.
Yeah.
So
I basically have built-in sunblock. And the deeper the complexion, the more sunblock someone naturally has. Yeah. So we have to be out in the sun longer in order to receive vitamin D from the sun. And the other day, I want to say it was, middle of last week, I started to feel like I wanted to just sit on the couch and not do anything. And I was having that internal conversation with myself about getting out to walk. So one of the things that I do every morning is, I try to do every morning, on weather depending and our daughter depending, is I walk her to school and pick her up. And what I do is, sometimes also with Ivo, once I leave her, I go a longer route, which gives me 30 minutes outside. I do that. I try to do that every day. Mm-hmm. And the feeling that I get when I come back inside from being outside for 30 minutes. And I also try to do it with no sunglasses, so that I can like directly receive the sunlight. And I feel old saying this, like how important it is. You when I was 20 years old, you would have told me that. I'd be like, yeah, whatever, I'll be fine. And now I strive every day to get outside at least for 30 minutes to receive sunlight. So that's one way you can treat seasonal depression. So that what I do may not fit for everyone. So some other ways that you can try to find ways to receive sunlight is, if you work from home, if you can, place your desk in front of a window so that the sun can you can receive some natural sunlight as you're working throughout the day. That's a way to receive natural sunlight. I used to have a vanity where I used to do my makeup before I went to work that was in front of a window, and I loved it because I didn't need any artificial lighting a lot of the times to do my makeup because I had the natural sun. And I always thought that that was great. Another way is if you receive a lunch break, if you can, find a window to sit by while you're on your lunch break if you work in an office, or go take a walk to get your lunch. And obviously then walk back, see if you could maybe stretch it 15, depending again on your complexion. Maybe you need a little less, maybe you need a little bit more. See if you can give yourself at least 15 minutes outside to receive the sunlight, especially do the hours of like 10 to 4. So lunches are usually between, 12 and 2 or something like that, if you can. And then the last one is the morning walk before work, if you can, if you have the time. Just think about it. If you can squeeze in 15 minutes. The sun usually comes up around this time of year between 6:45 to like 7:15. Unless your day gets started earlier than that, maybe some of those other options will work for you. If you have the extra time in the morning, or you feel like you have an extra 15 minutes in the morning, and you feel like you're experiencing some of these symptoms, get that sunlight with the walk. And then like I said before, the vitamin D supplement. If you feel like, okay, I can only get 5 minutes, get you a vitamin D supplement. It's recommended, like I said, 600 IUs for people ages 1 through 70. And then after 70, it goes up to like 800. But I don't think anybody is listening to this podcast that's past 70 years old. And then there's some other ones that I thought were kind of interesting, because I feel like if you have the time to do these things, then you may have the time to do the first one. But since seasonal depression can affect different pockets of the population, such as like, just the general population, and some people that already are experiencing depression, maybe they want to seek additional aid. So then there's like artificial light therapy, where you can receive it that way, if that's some sort of option for you.
Or maybe if you're sensitive to the sun, that maybe light therapy might be a better alternative.
A better alternative for you. I've actually listened to some people talk about different types of light therapies that they've done, because they live in parts of the world where they lack a lot of sunlight. And they have to find ways to receive this artificial light somehow, just to get the vitamin D. And then the last one is psychotherapy, which is cognitive behavioral or interpersonal therapy. And the reason why that is considered an option is because that type of therapy help change the distorted views that you may have on yourself during that time of year.
Wouldn't that just be counseling though? I feel like psychotherapy is such an aggressive.
Well, because there's a psychology behind it. So if you're someone that's if you're someone that's bipolar, you may need more than just counseling.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
There's a psychology behind maybe the disorder that you have, and you need something that has like a science-based remedy for you, so that you can, maybe the walks are just not working. You need someone to give you some tips and tricks how to function throughout a day. In addition to, maybe, I think lastly is going to be antidepressants, which are then going to be prescribed by a psychotherapist or a therapist or a psychiatrist, if that's the route that you need to take if your seasonal depression is severe. Because again, could you imagine someone that is already experiencing some sort of like anxiety, bipolar, ADHD, and then they step into winter and then they start to experience seasonal depression? I could see how maybe coupling more than one thing, maybe achieving that sunlight every day, but then receiving some of the benefits from the medication can really help them just balance out their overall like journey through the winter. I have a totally different view on people who have different what's the word I'm looking for? I guess different types of depression, you know, people, or different types of, you know, these psycho therapy terms, like, you know, bipolar or ADHD, or you know, ADD is kind of like an old term, or people that just have depression as a whole, you know, all year round. I have a very different view on these. What's the word that I want to call them?
On the different categories of people that are affected by this sad seasonal.
No. That's not what I want to say. Anyway, doesn't really matter. But what I'm saying is, I have a newfound respect for it.
Oh, okay.
I'm currently reading a book that has really opened my eyes to how and why people are affected by these different types of ailments, you know, such as bipolar, generalized anxiety, depression. And my empathy for people going through these things has gone from like a 5 to like 100. So I can't even imagine what it would feel like for someone to be already suffering from something like this, to then have seasonal depression thrown on top of it. So I want to implore people to find ways, or if you're feeling any of these symptoms, like, please just don't chalk it up to like the winter blues. I'm kind of sad. No, you literally could be experiencing an imbalance in your body because it is winter, and you need to give your body something to rebalance yourself out so you're not feeling that way. And one of the things that I think back to is I used to suffer from really bad migraines. Like, and I used to get cluster ones, or where it would last like a month. It would get so bad sometimes where it would affect my hearing. And like my ears would feel like they were clogged up. And it wasn't until like I really started taking care of myself till a lot of these things just started to disappear. Mm-hmm. But it sounds easier said than done. Yeah, I just started taking care of myself. I really had to make a commitment to my health. I had to really say to myself, okay, what's more important? My longevity in life and my overall health every day, day in and day out, or, you know, me eating these chicken nuggets right now, this instant gratification. Like, what's more important to me? And I say chicken nuggets because I have a chicken nugget weakness. So that's why I bring it up. And I had to make that decision. And I know that a lot of other people struggle with that.
Life or chicken nuggets? That's a tough one.
You'd be surprised, living in the world that we live in today.
No, trust me.
Instant gratification feels really good.
There's a lot of people who would think twice about ordering some chicken nuggets every day of the week.
Yeah.
For weeks and weeks on end without a regard of their health. So,
real talk. I asked Ivo to bring me cranberry ginger ale today. I haven't had cranberry ginger ale in what, like,
years?
Probably like a decade.
Yeah,
and I was just like, yo, I need that. But at the same time, I got in over 10,000 steps today, and I did my workout. I ate my health meal all week so far. Today's, I'm doing pretty good. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself some ginger ale.
Yeah, I'm going to have some of that too.
Yeah, I think everybody wants some because
we used to drink that a lot.
Soda does not exist in this house.
We totally, we do seltzer, but
yeah, but that's not soda.
This is carbonated water.
Soda has syrup in it and sugar. This, like, literally soda does not exist in our house. So the fact that there is a soda in our refrigerator now is like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of my wintertime thing. I'm actually really excited for Christmas this year, though.
Did you know that seasonal depression is not just it doesn't just happen in the winter? That there's an actual summertime pattern seasonal depression?
I've heard of something like that, but I can't say that I am well informed on it.
Yeah, so according to the Institute of National Mental Health, they've identified that there is a summertime pattern seasonal depression. And they really didn't have like an expert study on what causes it, but they guess that it has something to do with the longer days and the hotter weather, and how that can cause somebody to become uncomfortable. And we know people that are generally just irritated and do not like hotter weather. And
you mean you know people?
We know people. I know somebody in specific for that I've known for a very long time, and this person does not like the hot weather. So they kind of.
And if you're listening, you know who you are.
Who you are. So they kind of, when I saw that, they kind of confirmed it for me. I was like, oh damn, they might be dealing with summertime seasonal depression.
Well, I did read something once that I thought was really interesting about people who live on the West Coast. They have like a sort of, it's kind of like a depression that's fueled by FOMO. So because it's always so nice where they live, when they want to stay indoors, they feel guilty. And then it does this thing to them where this guilt, like, it weighs on them. And it makes them feel depressed because they feel like they're not fulfilling their life. They're not getting out into the world and doing. They should be outside. They should be out. They should be doing things. They're not active enough. It makes them feel less than like, other people that are doing it.
Yeah, because generally speaking, on the West Coast here, when it's nice out, you're outside because you don't.
The West Coast over there.
Thank you. Yes, generally speaking, on the East Coast over here.
Yeah.
When it's nice out, you don't want to waste a nice day, so you're outside taking advantage of the nice weather. Yeah. Over there, there's just endless nice weather. So, like, how can you really be outside every day?
Yeah.
But then again, how can you not feel bad about not taking advantage of nice days when there's so many of them?
It's interesting. A lot of people who originally live on the East Coast and then move to the West Coast, a lot of people wind up coming back because they can't deal with that.
It's too much.
It's too much for them. And then
too much rainbows and sunshine.
Well, they also become very used to and learn to love the seasonal changes. Yeah. And I myself love the season changes. I've always loved fall. I was born in the winter. I personally don't really like the winter. However, I've come to really enjoy the winter, but it's because I like flip my brain. It's because I get outside even when it's cold. The amount of times that I've asked Ivo if he wants to take a walk, and no lie, Ivo steps on the back porch of our house, and if it's like colder than 30 degrees, Ivo's like, I'm not going. I walk outside when it's like below 20 degrees, I usually, like, it's kind of hard, but for the most part, I'll bundle up and I'll go because I know that I need to receive that sunlight. And based on the information that I looked up, of course, seasonal depression affects more women than it does men.
Why is that?
That I don't know the answer to why, but I'm going to attribute it to the fact that women, you have to understand, we cycle the way that the sun and the moon cycle each other. So when we're getting less of one and more of the other, and our circadian rhythm is thrown off, and then that ties into our overall hormonal fluctuation, I could see why it could affect women more.
Okay. I no disrespect, but I don't identify with any of that.
Why would you identify with it?
That's what I'm saying. So like when you said it, it like literally went over my head. Like that was hard for me to even comprehend to where I would understand it. I just basically just heard what you said.
Okay. That was an interesting statement. So
typically, like, you would say something like that and I might be like, oh yeah, no, I feel you. But that has everything to do with your hormones and your circadian rhythm, so I just can't identify with it. So I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. I just think I find it odd that you say you wouldn't identify with that. Of course you wouldn't identify with that. You're not a woman.
Maybe I was just talking out loud. Talking what I was thinking out loud. That's
I was like totally thrown off by that, Ivo.
Right. Sorry about that.
Why don't you share with us what you have?
So, we basically covered a lot of the stuff that I had here. I really only else had to add to that was, the summertime seasonal depression. I honestly feel fortunate that I've never had to really deal with seasonal depression. I guess from living in the Dominican Republic and then coming out here and uh, gaining a love for the winter time, because my brother Johnny used to always take me skiing in the winter time. I learned to like really look forward to the seasons changing and the activities that I would do in the winter and then the activities I would do in the summer. I found reasons to be outside enjoying the seasons when they changed.
Yeah, Ivo likes to go snowboarding.
Snowboarding, skiing.
Absolutely not.
I just, especially from living in Dominican Republic, I spent a lot of time outside. It was nice weather out there. But when I came back over here, I still enjoyed being outside. So.
Oh, I thought you were going to share some of the things that people tend to do when they are experiencing these type of feelings. Like an increase in a certain behavior that you no longer do.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah. So some of the things that people do that I didn't realize was part of seasonal depression, I just did it because it was just that time of the season, which was, people tend to drink a lot more. Mm-hmm. They tend to eat a lot more. They tend to just sit around a lot more and kind of like just deteriorate health-wise, I guess. And for me, that was just part of life, right? Because in the summertime, I try to be fit. I try to follow a meal plan regimen so that I look the best as possible. So when the winter comes or the fall comes, I no longer have to follow that regimen. So I throw that all out the window. I start eating whatever I want. I would start drinking more. I would start laying around a lot more, and it was just part of what I did as my routine. Come to find out, those are the things that people do when they are seasonally depressed. So
they do more of it.
Yeah, they do more of it. Yes.
I mean, because I think it's a very normal thing in the winter to drink a little bit more if you consume alcohol, because there are less outdoor activities that can be done, so people tend to be in the home more, or doing functions in people's homes, or they're going into restaurants, or they're going into bars, or they're going indoors. So a lot of the times drinking can be accompanied with that. And then in addition to that, they're like in the winter, I feel like there's also like festivals that are function around drinking. Oktoberfest. Mm-hmm. There are fall, I'm trying to think of, like, there's like another one. Our town does a lot of these small, like, little festivals where drinking is part of the festival. Mm-hmm. And people will do more of it, because what happens when you drink and you're outdoors?
You warm up.
So then people will then consume a little bit more alcohol. And then I think the eating more has also a lot to do with the holidays too, because you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and honestly, there's just a ton of eating that happens during those 2 months. And then a lot of people try to reset in January, but it doesn't always really work that way. So to say that those behaviors are just attributed to seasonal depression, no, I think people tend to do that. But what happens is when you have seasonal depression, where maybe you had 1 or 2 drinks a week, now you're doubling, tripling it,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that people would do these things to compensate for the feeling that they were missing from the season that is no longer there, the one that they enjoyed the most, which was, in this case, it would be summer.
However, I will say this. It does not necessarily mean that someone enjoys summer more. It's just the way that their body's feeling. Because in the summertime, because we're getting almost 12 hours of daylight, your chances of receiving sunlight are increased by almost half in comparison to the winter, right? So that means that your circadian rhythm is going to be better. Your serotonin levels are going to be better. Your melatonin levels are going to be better. So just overall, your body's going to be functioning probably anywhere from 30 to 50% better than it would be in the winter. There are some people that they probably feel better in the summer, but they hate summer. And they love the winter, but then they feel like shit. because of just the way that their body's feeling, and they're not making the correlation. Because that's how I felt. I wasn't able to make the correlation. I could not figure out why in these months I felt the way that I felt. And it's not like I despise the cold weather. I just felt as it was bleak. I didn't see the point in it.
Do you feel like in the summer months you're more eager to just get up and go?
Yes, and it's because of the sunlight. I can tell you right now, one of the things that I love about our room is that I sleep on the side of the bed where the window that's facing in our bathroom
to the front of the house. When
the sun comes up in the summertime and it peeks in,
it rises through the front.
It literally, I feel my body charging up. My body is saying to me, oh, it's 5 a.m., it's 6 a.m., it's time to go. But now that the sun is not coming up till past 6 a.m., 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm in bed like, oh my
So what does that say about me, that I'm waking up before the sun comes up? What's
the fact that you don't know, and that we've talked about how male hormones work? Your hormones are cycling 24 hours a day.
Yeah, but I don't feel like I feel like I get my boost of hormones after I wake up. So if I wake up around, I don't know, my eyes open around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. My alarm clock goes off at 6, but a lot of times I might wake up before that. If I lay there in bed, it's not until like 6:30, 7 o'clock that I feel that I'm getting like that boost of hormones that we get every
Really?
day.
Because you wake up with morning wood regularly before you even get out of bed. That means that you're getting that kick of hormone.
Yeah, but it's typically, like I said, it's around the 6:30 time.
That's not my experience. However,
you know what? You're sleeping most of the time, so I don't really know what your experience
not
is.
all the time, but that's not my experience. So that is why men get a constant, it's recycled every day, where that's not my experience. I just told you today that I'm starting to feel tired. And then I looked at my menstrual tracker and I'm like, oh man, I'm 7 days out from this day. It's already starting to happen, where right now my progesterone is high and my estrogen is low, and I'm already feeling tireder than I would have been when I was 5 days ago, when I was peak ovulation. I had more estrogen. I felt like freaking She-Hulk.
So why do you think that this is something that affects you now in your later years than it did in your younger years? Because you're still going through the same cycle.
So what do you mean younger years? Because I started to experience this in my 30s. So it's the cases of seasonal depression are rare in people from young adolescent to like mid 20s. People start to experience it more because, to my understanding, you ever hear that joke where it's just like, oh, they're young, they got freaking hormones running through them. I've lost estrogen over the time, so I don't have the same amount of estrogen in my body that I had 15 years ago. So maybe 15 years ago, when winter came, when I did get the estrogen that I was getting delivered into my body, it was 3 times more than what it is now. So my ability to push through back then, I was more inapt to do it versus now.
So do you think that if you took a small amount of estrogen to equal the level of estrogen that you had in those years, would that make you feel better?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but what I will tell you is, from my reading, women just can't take estrogen. It's actually been proven to be cancerous. We would have to take a balance of all 3 of the hormones. We would have to take estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone to balance us out, and we would have to take it at different times during the month to make us feel okay. It's very complicated when it comes to being a woman.
Wow.
We just can't take one and it be the solution for us. Because too much estrogen in a woman's body can cause cancer. Because
right.
it's too
much testosterone in a man's body will cause issues as well.
Yeah.
But there is a way to track the levels. There's a way to supply testosterone to a man if needed on a schedule. So I was just, you're stating that your estrogen levels have decreased over time, which is similar to what happens to a man's testosterone over time. And because they've come up with hormone replacement therapy for men who have low levels of testosterone, I'm wondering, and I don't know this because I haven't researched this, theoretically there should be something similar for women when it comes to estrogen.
Well, considering that the knowledge and the studies of women and how women's bodies function really didn't start to take serious, I want to say the true studies of women's overall reproductive systems, there wasn't really a focus on it until the late 80s, early 90s. So we're only like 40 years into people truly understanding, doctors and scientists truly understanding the true functionality of a woman's body and how maybe potentially hormone replacement therapy could help us, because there was some time ago where they were just giving women estrogen and then they figured out that it was giving women cancer. So now they're trying to figure out ways to give them balances. I actually listened to Michelle Obama's podcast where she talked about when she went through menopause, where she had to go through several doctors to figure out hormonal replacement therapy for herself, because there were so many people that had no clue what they could do for her, because this is still new found
uncharted territory.
Exactly, uncharted territory. So I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean to offend you, but it's kind of like an ignorant statement for a man to be like, well, then maybe there's just an answer for you, where science for men has dated back so far that a man would think, yeah, there would just be an answer for you.
It wasn't a statement. I posed a question in theory.
Yeah, so, but like, you're even posing that in theory because for men there's a solution. So you're like, oh, because there's a solution for us,
but
wouldn't that mean that there's a solution for you?
But isn't that how solutions start? They start in theory. They start by posing questions and then trial and error.
I'm not going to disagree with that, Ivo, but do you see...
I mean, you called it ignorant, like an ignorant statement. I don't understand why you said that.
Because I think it comes from the thought process of there's a solution for me, so there must be a solution for you. And you're basing that theory on how things work for men.
I'm basing it on what you said. It was a statement that you said that your hormones level decrease over time. Okay? Which is similar to what happened to men.
It's not similar, because women's estrogen has to decrease so that we can go to menopause. Men don't go through a bodily function change. Men's testosterone decreases over time. I'm not even sure why that happens to men, but I know why it happens to women.
It decreases over time because their body doesn't need as much testosterone inside of them to do what testosterone is supposed to do.
Okay, for women, it decreases because we go through menopause and we stop getting our menstrual cycle. Right. So it's different.
You no longer need those hormones to do what they do because the need for them is decreasing.
We still need estrogen.
Right,
though.
but you don't need them to the level that you needed them when you were younger. So you start decreasing, your levels start decreasing. The same thing happens to men. And I know you're going to want to sit here and argue with. You're going to want to sit here and
absolutely not.
Yeah, well, I could tell by the look on your face.
Absolutely not.
You're not. You're like looking at me like it's not the same, even though it sounds the same.
I'm not even going to argue with you because I don't know for a fact that what you're saying is true.
I know for a fact what I'm saying is true.
Okay, but I don't know for a fact. So how can?
So don't believe me then. I'm just sitting here.
I just said to you that I don't know for a fact. That doesn't mean that I don't believe you. So how can I argue with something when I don't have the facts?
Well, you're doubting it. You're like, okay, that's fine. You're saying what you're saying, but I don't know for a fact. So you sound.
I just said that I believe you.
You sound doubtful.
Okay, I believe you. I just don't know for a fact. So that means I can't argue it. To me, you can only argue something when you have the facts.
Okay, so but as your husband, if I'm telling you something and I'm saying it's a fact,
I just said I believe you 3 times.
Wouldn't you trust in me and believe me and just believe what I'm saying to you?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you watch this podcast back, can you please just remind Ivo in the comments how many times I said to him I believe him, and then he's still questioning me if I believe him or not.
How do you believe something but then say I believe you, but I don't know if it's true?
I said I don't know. I don't know for fact. That means that I have not acquired the knowledge.
I'm giving the facts that I've researched, and I'm passing them on to you by telling you that it's true.
Okay, Ivo.
I'm like.
I think it's so interesting that you said
you're passing go right now. You're collecting $200.
I find it so interesting that you said
$200?
that I'm the one that wants to argue, but you're the one sitting here arguing with me. I just told you, okay.
It's because the statement that you're saying that's following it. It's like,
Okay.
You're like, I believe you, but whatever.
I'm sorry that you're bothered by that.
I'm not bothered by that.
You seem bothered by it.
It's just, I don't understand how you would say that. I don't understand how you would be like, yeah.
I'm just telling you how I could say it.
I know why you're saying it.
I'm saying it because I like to acquire knowledge on my own. So I hear that you're telling it, but I think it's so interesting that you're saying that because you're the person that tells our daughter all the time, when somebody tells you something, go and find out the information for yourself.
I said to her, believe it, but verify
it. Thank you. So that's what I would like to do. I believe you, but I don't know for fact. So that means I need to verify it on my own. So the fact that you're bothered by that statement is interesting to me, considering the type of advice you give our daughter. So that's what I'm telling you I would like to do. That's it.
That's not the way it came across.
Well, I can't help the way that you perceived something that I said. I'm telling you what it is, how I feel. Right. So I think maybe, I guess I'm surprised by it because I feel like you know what kind of person that I am, and you know that I like to look into things on my own. I like to understand things at a level where I can confidently say, okay, I get that.
I know what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you said that in the way that you said is what led me to answer the way that I answered.
Okay. Let's go to the cards.
Let's go to the cards. You think I don't have any cards over here? Oh, wait, they're way back here. They're all right. Well, you moved them, so I can't see them.
I didn't move them.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did this? Didn't I have a table here?
Yeah, but they weren't on the table.
They weren't on the table?
No, they were on that chair the whole time.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I left them on the table.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. It's usually where I get them. If you go back to the show, any of our other shows, you'll see me reach over. There's a deck of cards right here. That deck of cards is no longer there.
I'm just going to make sure that I put the timestamps on this so people can settle our disputes for us today.
This deck of cards that I just broke my arm for, right? Used to be conveniently right next to me. No longer a fact. All right. So,
even though I told him that they weren't there, my husband doesn't believe me, even though I told him. But for him, it's not fact.
No, because I know for a fact. I know for a fact because they are here.
Okay.
They're always here.
Uh-huh. All right.
Nice try, Gina. Nice try.
I'm going to take an orange one. Because it's just after Halloweenkies.
I want to go with blue for truth.
Oh, my God.
Am I going first or you are?
Sure, go ahead.
Would have been or remain to be the biggest points of connection in our relationship.
What? Read that again.
What have been or remain to be the biggest points of connection in our relationship. Second part to this. How should we be working on it?
Can I see this card? Sorry. Yeah, so that's why. Points of contention.
Oh, see, I don't have my glasses on, so
that's why I was like, "What is he saying?"
I didn't want to reach for the glasses. I don't even know where they are right now. I'll tell you the truth. So
pull another card, Ivo.
My apologies for that. But why don't you know what? I'll just get another one.
Yeah, get another blue one.
Oh, they're over there. Fuck. God damn. All right. Stop, bro. Don't make this. I'm gonna hurt you after this. What's your biggest fear for this relationship? These blues hit hard, huh?
biggest fear is that I lose you before I'm ready.
How would you even begin to be ready for something like that? What determines you being ready and not being ready?
I think I just want to live and grow old with you. So if it happens before then, I think I would be devastated.
What would you consider old?
Past living expectancy.
So
Average living expectancy.
70 to 80?
Yeah. So if it happens before then, to me, that's like...
You're not ready?
No. To me, if we are together until living expectancy, then to me, we have lived and been together and done so much. Like, for us, that's like another 40 years. So if it was to happen like sooner than that, that's my biggest fear. And that's part of the reason why I'm constantly trying to get Ivo to do things or stop things.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with public displays of affection? That's a stupid question.
What is 1 being what and 10 being what?
1 being the lowest, like 1 you're like 10 you're very uncomfortable, 1 you literally do not care.
How about a half of 1? I really have no
Ivo
care for
cares.
PDA.
Huh?
I said I have no care for, like, public displays of affection does not bother me in the slightest way.
I find it interesting that would bother someone to... Actually, it does bother me sometimes.
No. Yeah, you're right, it does.
It does. There are certain circumstances where I do not like to show public affection, but that's a topic for another time. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, on Spark Talk Fridays, where we are creating conversations about life. Peace out.
Till next time.